Welcome to a celebration of a poet, a teacher, and 40 years, officially, of both. I say officially, here in my hand is a copy of his first book, published 40 years ago, for all we know to the day. Armed Descent, I guard it with my life, and also welcome to a conspiracy to try to give Robert Kelly one day off before he resumes for the next 40. So think of it then as an Opernpause, where we don't have to stand in the lobby with a raspberry in our drink. Think of it as a halftime, or they have cheering and music. And like himself, always a work in progress. And think of this, students coming from everywhere, honored to be a part of this celebration. And I, one of them, Gott sei Dank. And where I will also personally celebrate the voice I always hear when I read and listen to and talk about and try to wrestle with the writing of poetry. I, 17, at the top of Aspinwall, almost 40 years ago, having never laid eyes on the man, waiting, he was a little late. And I have to tell you this, some of you don't know this, but you've known Robert maybe for the last 15 years. This is the slim version, the second version of Robert. In the early 60s, he was wide, and he had an enormous chestnut-colored beard, same eyebrows, just bigger and darker. And he came to the top of Aspinwall, where I was waiting at 17, with the beard, and he smoked then. And out of his shirt pocket came the Camel and disappeared into the beard. And then the Zippo with the 6-inch flame disappeared into the beard, and I gasped. This was a moment of real fear because I was afraid I wouldn't hear what this huge man with his feverish warmth might say. And this is what I heard. So, Mann begins with a curious gambit. 30, 40 pages, trying earnestly to convince the reader of something we evermore discover isn't true. Why would he do this? Let's call this the first question. Was I aware that the first 30 seconds of my real education had just happened? Yes. I didn't know it then. Yes, perhaps I did. Never mind that he was already down the block and around the corner before my mind had its shoelaces tied. This was a pace that I was going to enjoy getting used to, and it's a pace that I've enjoyed all these years. And always the voice. The poet's voice I hear that says, "Let it mean," the teacher who made us bear in mind the history of things, but the poet's voice who said, "Say it clearer, or better, or louder than the ones who came before." And the people, everything was how we met them. On the long boulevard on the Seefeldstrasse by the Zuricher Bank, Kelly took me to Joyce. The snowy lunch with Zukowski, Olsen, and the growling Duncan. The picnic on the riverbank with the good Dr. Williams, himself beside me as I wrestled to find a way into Pound in his threatening brogue, the greed of me to make them all saints because he loved them, and I would steal off and read each new thing by Kelly, watching him finding a new way to elevate language every year without swiping from the old guys and without ever being ordinary. Plain, maybe, as in merely exquisite. We might not have noticed we were on the brink of remembering, and Kelly there in the nick of time. Maybe we're staring you down today, and you on the lam from remembering, and us here to remind you of the influence, the catalyst, the force of inspiration that for some here is as strong as any other single person, but for me always the voice that says a poem is a hand laid on the small of your back until suddenly you know a better question. The voice that even now says, "Are you sure?" That says, Listen. Kelly, I say to you, namaste. Of this group of former students of Roberts and some current students of Roberts who have gone on to publish and make writing their life and world, the first poet is Thomas Meyer, who came to Bard in 1965 and began studying with Kelly shortly after that, and importantly at Kelly's house also met Jonathan Williams, with whom he has collaborated, published, and edited these many years. If you go, say, to Jargon Book's site and read what all the other illustrious writers have written about Tom Meyer's work, and if you're a writer, you will covet such praise, it's not just the high esteem in which he's held, but the genuine affection that comes through so clearly from all his peers. I overheard Kelly talking about Meyer's work, and he said that he was saying that Staves, Kellens, and Legends was one of the best books of its era, meaning the 80s and the late 70s. That's enough to perk up the ear. His books are not just wonderful to read, but stunning to look at. One needs to hold sonnets and tableaux to realize how beautiful a book can be. Along with that book, Sappho and also Monotypes and Tracings form a trilogy of collaborations with the late Sandra Fisher and her beautiful, vibrant paintings. He has recently translated the I Ching and also the fifth book of the Greek anthology. His most recent book, a collection of 25 years of poetry, is At Dusk Iridescent, Thomas Meyer.